Heyo, welcome back to the Undrafted and Unqualified Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Anthony. I'm here with Vinny, and we are finally getting into preseason. We're getting some football. So we had week one of the preseason just this past weekend. A lot of exciting things. We'll talk about a few things, just a couple things that stood out to us, just before we get into our main content for today. So yeah, we got some busy episodes coming up for you guys.
Yeah, so today we're going to get into some hot takes on the redraft, field as a whole. I know earlier in the year, one of our first episodes we did was our rookie hot takes after the draft. So in this case, it'll be the whole field available at every position and just some, out there takes that might be or are very much against the consensus of what that player could be. So yeah, we'll get into those, but I think we're going to start with some news first.
Yeah, so first piece of news, it's been a little bit since our last episode we heard Jordan Addison got a 3-game suspension. I think the biggest thing for that is just, see where he starts to fall in drafts because it's a 3 games. So he'll come back. He was very productive last year, very productive the year before. He has in his 2 seasons so far, I believe he has double-digit total touchdowns in each season. I think one of them might have been like a rushing touchdown or something like that each year,
Yeah.
but he has the double-digit touchdown. So he's a productive player. He has that under his belt. If he starts dipping late eighth round, ninth round, he may be worth a stash. The one thing I want to talk about though with the suspension is you can't throw him in your IR slot. So he does burn a spot on your bench. 3 games could be worth it, especially if there's value there for Addison.
Yeah, no, I think it is a point to make that, the initial reaction to suspended players is kind of a panic where like, oh, well, this guy's not playing for 3 games. He's going to fall in drafts. They somewhat become a value like you were, sort of hinting at. I will note with Jordan Addison specifically, I saw a tweet that after weeks 4 and 5, they're both games out of the country. So then week 6 is their bye week. So we could see a situation where like he doesn't really get fully ramped up until after week 6. So I guess that's just something to note where it'll be interesting to see how if they just throw him right back in or kind of ease his snap percentages. But it's also something to think about with Rashid Rice, who we could absolutely see a suspension happen before the season starts. So yeah, always monitor guys that are suspended. Don't just cross them off your list. Like there is value at a certain point.
Yeah, I think suspension though is one of those interesting things too, right? Like as you said, they might need to ramp him up, but I think suspensions is it's a weird thing. You can't stash them in your IR slot, so they burn a
Yeah,
spot on your bench. But at the same time, they don't need to ramp up because they're practicing and they're putting in the work. They're not injured and
yeah,
they
that's a fair
can't.
point. Yeah,
So, I think Jordan Addison, maybe if they are away, they're like, all right, we like what we're doing right now, but I think they're going to slot him right back in there. There's nobody behind.
yeah,
Like, who's their third guy? Is it Jalen Naylor?
it is Jalen Naylor. Yeah,
So yeah, I think they're just going to throw him right back in there. But it is good to note the bye week too. So, and the two
yep,
games abroad.
yep. So yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, I don't really know how to feel about Addison. I'd have to look at how it truly affected him. But yeah, that's kind of the biggest news of the off season right now.
Yeah. In terms of preseason, is there anything that really stood out to you that matters for fantasy football, or you just want to mention too that might not matter?
Yeah, I mean, in our RB rankings episode, we touched on Travion Henderson and a guy that I was really high in. I know we've talked a little bit now. You're
Yep.
starting to, get a little bit on the
Yeah.
hype train. But I think he showed us why. And that just explosive ability is really what stood out to me. And I really think we start to see his ADP start to creep up because that kick return touchdown is just like, you're not banking on those type of points to come in a fantasy season, but to me it just showed his explosiveness. Like this guy can house anything if you give him
Yeah.
space. So that was a standing or something that stood out to me. Anthony Richardson going down again. I mean, it was just a broken finger, or not a broken finger, dislocated
Dislocated.
finger.
And he's supposed to
But
practice this week too, so it's
yeah,
not even like
but it's just something that this guy can just not stay healthy.
I know.
Daniel Jones looked okay, but that was kind of a quarterback situation to monitor through this preseason. So it's, he just can't get out of his own way of just staying healthy. So that was, I guess, a major part of the weekend too.
Yeah. I think a couple things that stood out. One was Henderson. I'm a Pats fan, as you
Yeah,
guys know by this point, but um, yeah, I've changed my tune a little bit. I was lower on him, expecting it to be split. It still will be split, but
yeah,
he's just he's so explosive, and he to me he has that Gibbs role, but we're drafting this guy so much later
yeah,
than Jahmyr Gibbs.
yeah,
And we saw him just he was really good. Will Campbell looked good. So I think there is some improvement to be had in that offensive line. So Henderson's climbed up my rankings a bit. I can't push him too far. He's not in my top 20, that's for sure, but he is definitely climbing a little bit. And I think I had him personally, I think I had him 25 when we were doing our rankings and he came to our consensus 24th. He'd be closer to 22, 21 for
okay,
us in the consensus ranking now with me.
yeah.
And
I think I had him at 20. So,
yeah, so he'd be right about 21 then, because I
yeah,
think that's where
okay,
I have him now. So
that's a big boost. Yeah.
exciting. Yeah, exciting player. So yeah, I love to see that. Kyler, I don't know if you saw his pick.
Oh,
He
I saw the pick. Yeah,
Man, it was just one incompletion, so I'll give him that. It is preseason, but it just feels like we're gonna have another year of Kyler where it's like you don't know what you're getting. It would be like you go into a week against a bad defense last year, and you're like, oh, start Kyler this week, and he's terrible. Then I
yeah,
remember specifically there was a week against the Jets, who were a very good defense against quarterbacks last year. That everybody's like, all right, sit him this week, and he went off. And it's like you don't know what you're gonna get. I feel like this team is now really focusing on the run game, and then their defense is slightly improving. So I did actually bump Kyler down a few spots. He's still in my top 10. I think I have him at 9 now. So,
okay,
I'm still okay with Kyler, but I'm definitely not gonna be targeting him. Um, and it was just like the change of tune was really just seeing the scheme and then seeing those boneheaded play that it's like, all right, Kyler's really not
yeah.
going to improve a ton. And he finished at 10 last year. So I want him closer to 10 than I think I had him at 7 at one point. So
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, I feel like I'm gonna adjust my rankings uh after the preseason ends, just because it's so easy. Like, I get your point, but it's so easy to fall for the overreactions. Like, I think Kyler will be okay. Like, it was just one series. Some quarterbacks need like, half of games to get really into things, which isn't a good thing, but it's the speed of the game change for him. So I'm not going to overreact too much, but I see it's a little bit something to watch of, like, especially for someone like Marvin who excels down the field. I don't know. Is Kyler capable of doing that anymore, of really slinging it down there? So
yeah,
we'll see.
it's that in the scheme for me. And then last thing I want to mention too, Calvin Ridley,
Mhm.
that he is going to be targeted a lot by Cam Ward.
Cam
I
Ward looked really good too.
Cam Ward looked solid. I think that could be a really special connection. And, I've been, big on Tony Pollard all offseason. Spears got banged up, high
Yeah,
ankle
yeah,
sprain. So
yeah,
I actually think Pollard's got even more potential to go into the year with opportunities. So
yeah.
I'm
It's all there.
kind of buying into this Titans offense in a super flex. I would love Cam Ward as my third quarterback. So yeah, I think I'm kind of buying into this offense a little bit just based on what I saw, specifically those three guys. Pollard due to the Spears injury, Ridley because Ward liked him a lot. And
Yeah.
we've heard talk about that all offseason, but then we saw it. And I think Ward's going to be a solid quarterback. Just his poise under pressure too. He's just one of those guys. It reminds me a little of Jaden Daniels, where they're just comfortable in the pocket. Cam Ward is so nonchalant, but like
I was gonna ask, could we see a CJ Stroud kind of season from Cam Ward where he just kind of like dominates the efficiency stats and is just like super efficient the whole year and it turns into a solid fantasy finish?
I think he'll be solid. I honestly, if he does finish well, I think it's going to be like back end quarterback one. I really can't see him doing a Jaden
Yeah.
Daniels finishing at five
No, 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 no.
or
I
Stroud.
agree.
What did Stroud finish at? 5 or 6, I think, 2 years.
Yeah, maybe even 7, but like it was still a really good year.
Yeah, I can't really see that for Ward, but we have to factor in there's a little bit of rushing upside.
Hmm.
They do play in a pretty bad division, so he's an intriguing late round dart throw. Like he kind
Yep.
of fits in that category for me. I'm gonna need to throw him somewhere in my rankings.
Yeah, we'll
Currently
see.
he's not in my top 25, so I want to get him in there somewhere. Just based on what I saw. But I think
Mhm.
he kind of fits in the similar category for Bryce Young as me. Like
Okay.
I like Bryce Young this year. I'm big
I
on
like that
his
spot
offense.
for the both of them.
So yeah, they're both intriguing offenses based on quarterback play. And,
Hmm.
I kind of like buying into these potential. And,
Yep.
I wouldn't target them too early, but, late round dart throw, especially in a super flex, go for it. I'm all for it.
Especially keeper leagues where like if you hit on one of those picks and they turn out to be a very
Yeah.
solid asset, you could get these guys in the 13th keeper round.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. For example, my keep I have a keeper league, one of my main leagues, and we do like every year you keep the guy around above where you drafted him, and then it
yep.
would just keep going up.
Okay.
Um, One guy his rookie year drafted CJ Stroud in round 16. So
Yep.
he
There you
kept him
go.
last year, round 15. This year he'd be a 14th rounder. And I'm not in on Stroud this year just because I think he doesn't have the support around him and he's not a rushing quarterback. But, 14th
14.
round
Yeah.
is really good.
Yeah.
We know he can be productive. So
Yep.
that's a great point. Keeper league, keep him in mind.
Yep.
All right, let's get into it. Let's do the hot
Yeah,
takes.
we got sidetracked a little bit, but hey, it
We
was good.
did.
It was a good conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we're like I said, August, we're here. We got a lot
Yeah,
to
yeah,
talk
it's
about.
exciting. It's exciting.
So, but yeah, we each have three hot takes for today. Um, yeah, I think I'll kind of just leave it there and we'll just get right into it. So, Vinny, why don't you start us off with your first hot take? Talk us through it.
Yeah, so I could be debatably starting with my hottest take out of my three, but I'm just gonna go for it. My first take is that Chase Brown soars above his ADP and finishes as a top three RB in PPR format. Now, first, I did have on my sheet finishes as the RB1. I thought that was a little too aggressive. I felt like putting him as the top three, um, shows that in a sense he's in that tier of Gibbs and Bijan. Some people would have Saquon in there too, but that tier of just these running backs that are going in the top five picks. So that's where I kind of see him as being in a position for next year. I mean, just to throw some stats, last week in the second half of the season, he averaged 24 touches a game, 116 total yards, and RB4 in fantasy points per game. Those are elite numbers and are right alongside with the guys such as Gibbs, Bijan, and Saquon that we're drafting in the top of the first round. Um, the funny thing is, his situation got better possibly than last year. I mean, last year the Bengals were in a situation where it wasn't even Chase Brown's job at the beginning of the season. So that's why those week 8 or week 9 on numbers are so important, is because Zach Moss was there. He was getting touches. They weren't efficient, which is why Chase Brown took over so quickly. But for me, it's just the receiving opportunity. I mean, this is going to be a high-powered offense, best offense in the league, in my opinion. Um, and the receiving opportunities are going to be there. It's going to be a massive increase from what we saw last year, just because of the pure volume that he's going to get a tick up in. And then the last point of just why I love Chase Brown so much this year is, with a guy of his stature and kind of skill ability, you worry about goal line productivity. The Bengals didn't bring in any competition to compete with him for those goal line carries. So everything's going to go to Chase Brown. This is an offense that's going to be in the red zone a lot. And so I see him just doing everything and it getting all put together this year and really kind of excelling into that upper tier of running backs this upcoming year.
Yeah, I'm in on Chase Brown this year as well. I think honestly saying he finishes at one, I don't think it's a crazy stretch,
Well,
Um,
maybe I'll switch it to that because, yeah, let's do it. I think Chase Brown finishes as the RB1.
I like that because think about it this way, like, he's what, ADP 8, RB8, he's going in the
Yep.
second round. So I don't think it's completely out of the realm he finishes up there. But yeah, I think a big thing that stood out preseason, we'll talk about it with the Bengals. That Bengals starting defense was out there and they
Yep.
got destroyed by a backup Eagles offense.
Yeah.
I think we're in for a long season. If you're a Bengals fan, I am so sorry. This is going to be a rough year in terms of the defense.
It's gonna be fun to watch though. Like,
Oh
because
yeah.
on
You
the other hand,
got
they're
shootouts
gonna stay in
every
those games.
week.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, point being though, like they could be the worst defense in the league and then also the best offense in the
Yeah.
league. You pair those
Yep.
together, a lot of points are going to be had. Um,
Yep.
yeah, the O-line's not the best in the world, but like I don't think it matters when you have a guy who has PPR upside. He's an efficient rusher. They had all that talk about, oh, we're gonna bring in a guy in the draft and he's gonna run right alongside Chase Brown. They brought in what, seventh rounder Taj Brooks? I don't
Yep.
think he's
Yeah.
gonna
Super
take
late.
work away. Yeah. And then they cut Zach Moss. So,
Exactly.
like the guy who was there last year. So I don't know. I think he's gonna be very good this year. I think you want a piece of that offense. So I like Chase Brown a lot. Um, yeah, and I like this take a lot too. All right. I will counter you for the RB1 spot with my hot take.
Okay.
My first hot take is that I think Devon Achane goes for over 90 receptions and finishes as the RB1 overall.
Okay.
I was debating, I'm like, oh, he'll finish top two. I'm like, no, I have to say one. His current ADP is like the RB5 or six. Like, just saying he gets the two isn't crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
So I wanted to say RB1, and I think he's going to go for 90 plus receptions, which is really what's going to get him there. He rushes very efficiently. He's an electric player. But it's the receptions where he gets his points. He had 78 last year, which is a lot, especially for a running back. Um, Other things that help him with the opportunities is like Jonnu Smith leaving. So Jonnu's getting a lot of the receptions in the short yardage areas. Now Achan's going to have more opportunities for that. We know Tua loves Achan. Um, and then in terms of the defense, like the defense for the Dolphins, the secondary is completely different from last year. Like none of it's the same. Ramsey, they traded away. What's his name? I don't know how to pronounce his name, but their number one cornerback
Oh,
hurt
yeah.
for the year. So he's done. I think the defense is going to be worse than it was last year. Like they were top 10 last year in a lot of metrics. But that secondary scares me a little bit. I don't think they're going to fall off completely. They still have a pretty solid front seven, but the secondary's kind of not great. Minka's probably their best player in the secondary, but is Minka still the same guy? I don't know. So I'm expecting the defense to be a little bit worse, which means, okay, there's got to be some more offense here. And just to further the point of the defense, Quinn Ewers, who looked awful the other day, and Zach Wilson, who also looked awful, have been performing very well against the defense so far in camp. Like, I've been seeing a lot of highlights of the two of them just carving up that defense. That
Uh,
secondary is in for a rough year. And I think it's going to end up looking like they're going to be a target matchup for receivers and quarterbacks throughout the year. But yeah, I think that's not great. That's not great for sure. We know Tua loves Achan, so that's great. He's been standing out in camp. They plan to use him a lot. I just saw Alexander Madison had a neck injury that's going to keep him out the year. So that's brutal, but that's some of that depth is gone. So I think the next man up is Jalen Wright or Ollie Gordon. Don't know if either one of them is really going to take a lot away.
yeah.
I think those are the guys who are going to take away maybe the short yardage usage, but I still see Achan being on the field a lot.
Yeah.
Explosive plays, that's his game. And then, I'm going from 78 to 90 plus receptions. 12 receptions more isn't crazy. And if two is healthy, we know the targets are there when two is the quarterback. So I think there's a good chance this happens. I'm in on Achan a lot this year. I don't think this is the craziest take in the world to up his receptions. I think maybe 90 receptions for a running back is wild, but yeah, to say he finishes the RB1, I don't know if it's crazy a hot take, but I'm in on it.
No, I love the take. And But I mean, in terms of us, like, I said top three for Chase Brown. You said you were thinking about second top three, but you're right. Like, it is a hot take though for him to finish as an RB1. He's never done it in his career. He's not the favorite out of four running backs. So, I mean, it's a hot take in my mind, and I completely agree with it as well. Chase Brown and Devon Achane are guys that I'm love drafting at where they're at right now. I mean, if you get the RB1 in the middle, early second round in Devon Achane, you're winning your league if you're hitting your first pick, which you most likely are. So I think you talked a lot about the receiving side, which I think will also grow. But in terms of the rushing, I think people forget that Raheem Mostert was kind of the not lead RB, but heading into last year, we weren't sure what Achan's role was really going to be because Mostert was just coming off that insane year. So now Mostert's not there completely at the start of the season. This is kind of the first year where you're looking at the Dolphins roster and Achan's kind of the like leading person to get all the rushes. They'll involve other guys, but yeah, I feel like Achan's going to be the goal line back. So I see the rushing touchdown, the numbers going up as well. Just combined with the reception numbers, I could easily see him finishing as the RB1.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I think he's a guy. I think both the guys we just talked about though are becoming fan favorites. So
Mhm.
I know we're probably gonna have to reach if we want these guys, which
Yeah,
it sucks, especially in the first two rounds. But I don't think it's a problem to reach on these guys. They're just that
exactly.
good. They're that good.
Yeah. I have no problem reaching. Even if HN gets to the first, back into the first, I have no problem with that.
Yeah,
So
I've been seeing him go there a lot lately, like the 1-2 turn. So
yeah,
I've
yep.
been trying to do some mock drafts and yeah, yeah. Wish I had a late round pick for HN instead.
I have a 111 in one of my leagues, and I would love to grab up HN and Chase Brown. Man, I think
You
that
could
that dude.
have like
Um,
111's a nice spot this year.
yeah, the back end of the draft is kind of the place to be if you can't get one of those top three spots. But
Yeah. I have pick
um,
three. I don't know how I feel about it. So we'll
that's a solid pick. I think that's a good pick.
yeah.
Um,
Anyways, enough sidetracking. Why
yeah,
don't you go for your second take?
yeah. So I'm gonna stay on theme here with the Bengals offense. Um, and this take is that Joe Burrow has an historic season and finishes as the QB1 overall this upcoming season. Um, I kind of thought about it for a second, and of course, everyone's high on Jamar. He's coming off this historic season last year with the Triple Crown, I believe. Um, Everyone likes T. Higgins for a bounce back year. He's finally healthy at the beginning of the year. I love Chase Brown, and a lot of other people do love Chase Brown as well. Well, who's the person kind of conducting all of this and helping all these people have ridiculous seasons? It's Joe Burrow. I mean, this guy came up with 43 and 9 last year. I think he had 4,800 passing yards. And there was a lot of issues coming into the year with that team. I mean, Jamar was in his, contract thing. No one really know how
Yeah.
that was going to react. T. Higgins got hurt a lot last year at different points. Never really was there for a long period of time. The RB situation was Zach Moss and Chase Brown. No one was really the clear RB there. So Joe Burrow had all this going on. Not that it's major stuff, but his team was not set yet at this point. And he went on through 43 and 9. So now this year they come into the year with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins fully healthy, ready to go. Chase Brown as the bona fide RB1, showed what he could do last year. People are crazy high on him. Um, and now he has all this at his ready week one. So I see 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards as a possibility for him. I think that's what it takes to get the QB1 overall, just because he lacks that rushing upside. So you really have to light it up in the areas that, guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson maybe won't touch. Like they won't throw for 50 plus touchdowns, which is why they're kind of capped on their receiving side. But I see Joe Burrow having a monster year. The one thing that worries me is the O line. They did address it in the draft somewhat. They went third and fourth round O line. So I don't know. I that doesn't seem to be a major issue for him as we saw last year. So it doesn't worry me too much. But I think the Bengals are going to be a historic offense, kind of reminiscent of that Dolphins offense we saw a couple of years ago, where it was just 50-point game after 50-point game. So yeah, really in on Joe Burrow this year.
Yeah, safe to say you like the Bengals this year. But yeah, I like it too. I think The O-line's an interesting one. They're ranked really poorly right now. I don't think they're going to be great, but isn't Amarius Mims going into year two right now? Like, there could be
And
some improvement there. And then,
yeah,
you said they did address them in the draft. You never know what you have. So
yep,
I doubt they end up being anything more than like a back end top 20 at best. But, they were bad last year and they still produced. So
yep,
I don't think it worries me, as you said. Like I think Burrow's going to be insanely good this year. He's kind
yep,
of he's kind of in that tier of the top five quarterbacks, and it's interesting because all four other guys run a lot, and
yep.
Joe Burrow does not. But Joe Burrow is just, I heard recently, shout out fantasy footballers. They're my favorite podcast, and I get some inspiration for this podcast from them. But um. Point being, I remember them saying Burrow is what you hope Mahomes is. And I'm like, that is imagine just take Mahomes, put him
That's
into
a good
the
point.
Bengals offense, and you'd love Mahomes the same way you love.
Yep,
So
yep,
I think it's just one of those situations where Burrow is just he's so so good. Like you just take away the minimal rushing that he has, and you're like, I don't care. He's gonna throw so many
yeah.
down, so many yards, and he's gonna be a very good quarterback for fantasy, I think, again.
And also, you touched on like the defense piece for your last take and why they're going to be so high up because their defense is so bad. It's a similar situation with the Bengals where they could have a worse defense than they did last year, which is
Yeah.
crazy to think. So it's going to be a lot of shootouts. But the Bengals showed last year that there's shootouts that they can win. Like they can just outscore people, and that's how they're going to win games. So if it follows that formula again, we're going to see 40-point weeks for Burrow where he has like 5 touchdowns, probably multiple times this year.
Yeah. Yeah, they really need to sign Trey Hendrickson. I don't know what they're doing. That
Yeah. Yeah.
office, man. They're
Mm,
screwing them.
yeah.
All right. I'm going to take a break from the top guys for my second hot take. We've talked about two top 10 running backs, a top five quarterback. I'm going to dip pretty far in the running back rankings. Let's see, I'm going to pull up ECR, figure out where he's going right now. In PPR, this guy is going at 34. And before I mention the name, I think this guy is going to finish as top 15 in the league this year. He's in a situation where he's supposedly the backup, but the coaches come out and said they're going to have a 1A, 1B situation. And this guy's been lighting up camp so far. Um, they have a great O line. I don't know what I'm doing by not saying the name. I'm seeing if I can figure something out to see if you can put the pieces together. But
Yeah.
it's
Guess in the comments.
yeah,
Guess in the comments.
I just said it, but it's Jordan Mason. I think he's going to finish top 15. Kevin O'Connell's come out and said they have a 1A, 1B situation with him and Aaron Jones. He's been great in camp so far. The O line is ranked top seven. They're number seven going into the year. From PFF. They have Christian Darrisaw, a premier left tackle that they drafted in the first round a few years ago. They added Ryan Kelly and Will Fries from the Colts. They drafted a guard, Donovan Jackson, who, I've heard up and downs with him so far through camp, but it seems that the effort is there for him, and I love that. I don't care if it doesn't come together fully. Like the guy is trying to put in work, trying to do really well. He's in a great situation to improve and work on the weaknesses he has. So I like this O line. I like the situation. You know, Talking about his production, Jordan Mason was top six in yards per carry and rushing yards over expected per attempt last year. So this guy was insanely productive as a rusher. He ran for over 100 yards multiple times. I think it was three out of like four games as a starter for the Niners last year. He was really good. So give him a full-time role. This guy's going to be efficient. And, just going back to why they're saying it's a 1A, 1B situation. We know that they've been trying to get a counterpart for Aaron Jones. They traded picks. You don't really trade picks for running backs. I think it was like a six round or two. Like that's kind of a premier pick, even though it's like, oh, it's a six rounder, it's no big deal for running backs and in this market. Like, okay, if you really just want a backup, you could probably just sign one for really cheap in free agency. You don't need to go trade for one. So they liked what they saw in Jordan Mason. They went out and traded for him. Um, let's see what other points I have. So yeah, last year, I don't know if you remember, but before the year started, everybody's talking up Ty Chandler. Ty Chandler's going to be this counterpart to
Yeah, yeah,
Jones. Draft him. He's going to be good. He was terrible. And then they went and I think they traded or just signed Akers back. So they got Cam Akers.
yeah,
Yeah, and that, he's fine, I guess. And then they said, all right, no, we really need a guy. Let's trade the pick. So they traded a pick, got Jordan Mason. And Jones, he's going into his age 30 season now. He's never really missed games. He's kind of this guy who's always on the field. But lately he's always been questionable, always been banged up. Mason is 26 years old. Just the situation in general, I really think they want to kind of make this a committee backfield for the two of them. I don't really see Jones doing much to take work away from Mason. I see Mason being the goal line back. I see him getting the bulk of the carries. I think Jones is going to take away some of his receiving upside, that's for sure. But, if it's really fully split and he even gets like 12 carries a game and something like that, which I could see easily happen, I really think he can finish as a top 15 running back on the year. He's currently one of my favorite targets in drafts because he's going very late. ESPN ADP has him so far down. So this is a kind of guy like, it's definitely a hot take to have him as a top 15 on the year, but I think he's easily outproduces his ADP. And it feels weird that he's still so low in ADP, in ECR, in other people's rankings as well. So yeah, I'm in on Jordan Mason. Love what they have to offer. Love the situation.
yeah. No, I think this is probably the hottest take of the episode. And but I do like the boldness. Like it's a situation where it does kind of feel like Aaron Jones has just been kind of like, really avoiding a serious injury. He's always kind of had these nagging ones that he's always questionable. His age is getting up there. So I could absolutely see a situation where he misses multiple games, or they're just kind of his usage overall isn't what it's been in past years. My only worry from Mason, which like I could definitely see a like high mid end RB2. And of course, it's a hot takes episode, so I'm not gonna bash you for saying top 15. I just worry about his receiving upside a little bit. I feel like as an owner of him last year, like he was a super efficient runner, but if he didn't get in the end zone, it was just like a 10 point, 9 point week when I was like, man, if he's got in the end zone. So I feel like to get to that number of top 15, he's going to have some like at least double digit touchdown numbers, which is definitely possible. Like you said, he would then become the goal line back with Jones being out or whatever the case is. Those numbers tick up. It's going to Mason, but I just think he has to reach that 10 plus number, which is possible. I just a little worried of when that point comes where he's the go-to guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hot take for a reason. I don't really anticipate him getting the top 15, but it really wouldn't shock me if he did. I think he will be the goal line back. There was a picture I saw not too long ago of the two of them standing side by side. You should
Yeah,
see
yeah,
the difference of their legs, dude. Like Jordan Mason's legs, it's like, all right, it's like Saquon. Everybody's raving over Saquon's legs. Like Jordan Mason looks huge, and
yeah.
Aaron Jones looks tiny. Like they're gonna use Mason on the goal line, and I really think that. So, they get down to the goal line. How many touchdowns did Aaron Jones have last year rushing the ball?
That's
Um,
a good question. Let me see. I'll pull it up. I'm on the rankings, so I'll look.
yeah, if you pull that up, because I'm curious. I think this is a good offense, even with JJ McCarthy there now. Like this is a very productive offense. They won 14 games last year.
He
So
had
it's
five
like
touchdowns last year.
yeah. So I mean, they're gonna be primarily like a pass first team, I think. But with JJ McCarthy there, they're gonna have to make it a little bit more balanced. And Jettas is banged up right now. They're gonna have to rely on some of that run game. So even bump it up to 7 for Jordan Mason. I think he's gonna be productive this year. And I think there's a chance he finishes top 15, and I'll plant my flag there. Bold prediction, hot take right there.
Okay. All right. No, I like it. I like it. It's a bold one, but I like it.
Hey,
Um,
that's what it's about, you know?
exactly,
Gotta be
exactly,
bold. Look,
exactly.
we'll have a really fun episode, guys, that we're gonna do at the end of next year where we look back at both our rookie takes and these hot takes. And we're gonna see how good our hit rate was. And I don't it'll be low, but it'll be a fun episode.
Yeah, yeah, no, it will be. Um, all right. I'll get into my third take here. Um, well, I do want to preface before, like for example, this take, I'll just say it, is Malik Neighbors will finish as the wide receiver one overall this year. And in terms of, these might be some big names, but I feel like the hot take comes with the number one overall. For example, Devon A. Chan, Chase Brown. That's a big, like, number one overall. The difference between the number one overall score at each position and the number two is massive, which it just kind of that person takes a step above the rest of the competition. For example, Jamar Chase last year finished 60 points above the wide receiver two. Lamar finished 40 points above the QB two, which is Josh Allen. A running back was a little closer, but it was still 15 points ahead of the RB2 for Saquon. So, I mean, it's a big difference. So that kind of gets me into this hot take of Malik Neighbors finishing. This would be a big jump for him last year. We saw the targets, we saw the receptions, we saw just the pure ability from him. And really, we saw it from right out the gate. This guy put up 3 20-point performances in weeks 1 through 3, and then kind of got banged up for an injury that kind of nagged. It kept him out 2 weeks, but it kind of nagged throughout the year where we didn't really see him get back to that first couple weeks formation until later in the year where he put up more 20-point weeks in the 30-point week. So this guy definitely has superstar ability. We all know it's there as his first round draft capital. But where it really comes to me is how the Giants, people made fun of them in the offseason because it was kind of funny how many quarterbacks they were signing and drafting. But the quarterback position did improve from a fantasy standpoint. I mean, they brought in Russell Wilson, who's lined up to be the starter. They have Jameis Winston as a backup who any offense he's on, everyone loves fantasy wise. He made Browns receivers relevant. And then they have Jackson Dart, who they spent a first round draft pick on. So these are all people and players that are very capable of supporting receivers. And, I guess they just get the job done in terms of what Malik Neighbors needs in order to achieve this number one overall status. And the QB situation is important to me because last year, Malik Neighbors had 52 uncatchable targets. He was second in the league behind Jamar Chase with 170 targets, and 52 of those were uncatchable. That number is also good for first in the league in terms of uncatchable targets for receivers. And what that basically means is that their QB was inaccurate on that play, or yeah, it just wasn't even close to being catchable. It was throwaway or something like that. So 112 targets and 52 of them, or 107 targets and 52 of them were uncatchable. Now that he has kind of stable quarterback play where whoever's there will get him the ball and is capable of getting the ball, that's 52 targets that even if it's 30 catches, we could see these numbers boosting up. And this dude was already the number 6 overall receiver last year. So while it is the Giants, I think it's a great situation for him to exceed and really return on that ADP, even if it's the eighth pick overall, which sounds crazy to say, but I think he could have a game breaking year this year, and just kind of push for that triple crown himself this year, which touchdowns will be tough, but everything else I think he dominates.
Yeah, there's a couple points I also want to bring up because I love this take.
Yeah.
I'm very in on neighbors as well. One, he missed a few games last year. So he had what'd you say, 172 targets?
170. Yep.
170 targets last year, and he missed a few games. So we're talking 180 plus, which is ridiculous. They didn't add anybody. And also, Wandale Robinson also had like 130 targets, which
Yep.
is like this is a very, very funneled offense. Like it's weird because they're just not a great team, but it's almost like with the Eagles, it's channeled to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith that passing
Yep.
game. This is the same idea, except it's Malik Neighbors and Wandale Robinson. It's these two guys, they're getting everything. That's the first thing I want to bring up. Second, I hope it's Jameis. I really hope it's Jameis. Because if
I think
it's
they locked down Wilson as the starter. I think he got named it.
yeah, Wilson is going to start the year, but and I think it'll be interesting to see what they do with Jameis first start. Whatever happens throughout the season, if they're winning games and they need to pivot off Russ, well, if they're winning games, they probably won't pivot off Russ. That's the thing.
Yep.
So it's kind of tough for me to imagine Jameis becomes the guy, unless it's like, oh, Russ gets hurt week one, and then they're like, all right, we're gonna turn to Jameis first. I think that
Mhm.
would be a situation. But Jameis made Judy what, the wide receiver like four in points per game while he was the
Yeah.
quarterback.
Yeah.
It's
Something crazy.
ridiculous. And then we talk about you have here, it's like the first in target share in the league with 32%.
Yep.
Target share is such an easy stat to find, such a simple stat, like targets per game, target share, those stats, but they're also like huge predictors of success in fantasy football. So it's
Mhm.
like you wonder why we have guys like Jamar Chase is the number one ranked right now. Justin Jefferson is up there. CeeDee Lamb is up there. So it's like you wonder why it's these guys get a ton of targets, a ton of volume, and they get a large percentage of their target share for the team. Malik Neighbors is doing that too. And then last point, is that we look at you're saying he was second in targets only behind Jamar Chase. People compare his play style to Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
They're
Yep.
like, oh, this is basically Jamar Chase, but in the NFC on the Giants without a
Yep.
quarterback. So it's
Yep.
like you upgrade the QB play, all of a sudden, you have a stud receiver. And
Mhm.
one thing I'm learning since playing fantasy over the last few years is you got to bet on talent. I think talent really outweighs QB situations sometimes.
It
I
does.
was very out on Neighbors last year because I was like, oh, the Giants suck. Well, guess what? Malik Neighbors was like top 20 or something. I was like, rookies never finish that high. He's being drafted so high and he was just that good, and he very well outproduced his ADP. And then, I think Justin Jefferson was a guy I was kind of out on last year because it was Sam Darnold who was the quarterback. Well, Justin Jefferson, what did he finish as top two?
He
I
was
think,
too. Yep.
yeah, he was two last year. Like that's what I'm saying is like with Sam Darnold as his quarterback, talent just outweighs whatever the quarterback situation is. So. Yeah, I love Neighbors. I know I just talked a lot about your hot take, but
Oh yeah.
I think this is a great take, and yeah, I'm very in on Neighbors this year as well.
Yeah. Yep. No, I think it's a hot take just because of the fact that he has to beat out Jamar Chase. And like that's not an easy thing to
Yeah,
do, especially with like, the success Jamar just showed. So we both think Neighbors is capable of it. So yeah, it'll be exciting. It's a player I want on my as many teams as possible. I'll just say
yeah,
that.
yeah, and it's as you said with your other two takes, you think the Bengals offense is going to be insanely good. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's going to be
Yep.
very hard to beat out Jamar Chase because
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
touchdowns are going to be a lot harder for Neighbors. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it goes up.
Yeah. How many did you have last year? Do you know?
He had seven touchdowns last year. I could see it creep into double digits.
I could see him around the same, honestly. I don't think the Giants take a great step forward, honestly. Um,
Mm.
the O-line's still pretty bad. The receivers outside of Neighbors aren't very good. They have no tight end. Quarterback
He,
play is improved, but I don't think it's, in a
yeah,
situation they're
he
going
could honestly just get his points back in receptions alone.
to. He really
Like he
could.
could have 30 more receptions than last year, and we'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. He's an exciting player for sure. I'm kind of in those top like 4 to 8 receivers. I'm still trying to adjust a little bit. Like I'm going back and forth with some of them. Oh, this one's a little banged up. This guy's, his
Yeah,
quarterback's banged up. So it's just a situation where I got to see where I'm going to end up with Malik. But
yeah,
regardless of where I put him, I really like him.
same
And
here.
last hot take of the day. This might be my favorite one, honestly.
Wow.
Um, and I was like, I really don't want to do this for a hot take episode when we did a specific rookie hot takes episode, but I had to put this rookie in here because I think Emeka Egbuka is going to be the best fantasy receiver on the Buccaneers this year. And I think he's going to finish top 20 in the position. So I think Emeka Egbuka is a huge target for me in drafts. I see people reaching for him right now too. He looks good. He's a very polished receiver. He's 23 years old. This guy is coming into the league. I think I'll get down there at some point, but let's just hop into some of these notes I have. So Godwin's injury is the big reason why I think he's going to finish as the number one guy on the Bucks. His injury seems to be worse than expected. He's likely going to miss week one, the potential to miss a few more games. It's not great. I saw a picture of their like media day too, and you can just see how swollen his ankle is compared to the other one. He also, I saw he needed two surgeries for this injury when it usually only takes one. That's not a good sign. Godwin, I believe, is 29 years old now, so it's not like he's a young guy who's going to come back and be a stud. He was so productive last year, but it's really hard for me to say, oh, this guy who's injured and he's coming back, he's going to be good. We just paid him a lot of money. Oh, now he might miss week one, but he's still on track for where we want him to be. But he could also miss a few more games. He's still on track. It's like, is he really? If he's on track, you'd want him before week one. So that's concerning to me, is the Godwin injury. But when he's healthy, don't get me wrong, he's a very, very productive receiver. In terms of Mike Evans, I think he, I still want to view it as he's the number one guy on this team. Let me make that very clear. My
Yeah.
bold take is that Egbuka is going to outproduce him, but I still think, and I'm ranking it this way, where Evans is going to be the number one guy. He's also just the touchdown guy, the jump ball guy. Egbuka is going to be in the slot. Evans, though, he is 31 years old, so I mean, we need to consider that. It's not ideal, and there's a chance he goes for 1,000 again. But we need to consider the age. We need to consider the situation that's there. And Egbuka's been lighting up camp. Like as far as Egbuka himself, there's a couple quotes like from Baker Mayfield. He said, "Emeka is an absolute stud. He's the real deal." You love to hear that. That's your quarterback. If he trusts you in camp, he's going to trust you during games. I love that. Sterling Shepard, was it Sterling? Yeah, Sterling Shepard. He said he's like a mini Chris Godwin. So, they literally just drafted his replacement. They're not going to rush Godwin back. Um, and then one other staffer said, looks like he's been in the league for years, which is great to hear. That means he's not playing like a rookie. He's not dropping the ball. This is a guy they trust already. This is a guy that I think is going to have a prominent role day one. We saw him. He looked pretty solid the other day in preseason. I think he only had one catch, but I loved what I saw in that catch. So yeah, I like what they're saying about him. The team is backing him, and he was a first round pick, we can't forget. Um, yeah, with the way this offense works, there's enough volume to go around. So I think while Godwin is still banged up, I think there's enough for both Mike Evans and Egbuka to be very productive. Um, and then, yeah, I think they also wouldn't have drafted Egbuka in round one if they thought Godwin would be backing up to speed. So, they spent the 19th overall pick on Igbuka. That's a lot of draft capital to spend on a guy where it seems like, oh, you already have your three receivers set. Like, why would you draft this guy? I think Godwin's injury is a lot worse than we really think it is. And he's a special talent. And some other stats I found, he could have been like the first wide receiver off the board if it wasn't for Tet and Travis Hunter also playing both sides of the ball. He has
Yeah.
a higher yards per route run than both Hunter and Tet McMillan in his college career, which you love to see that. He had similar stats to Marvin Harrison Jr., who's being talked up a lot going into year two and also was drafted as a top five pick in the NFL draft. And he was the best route runner versus zone in the last two draft classes. So of all the receivers in the last two draft classes, he's the best route runner versus zone, which we are seeing a lot more of in the NFL today. And I think we could be looking at a big year for him. He's the slot guy there. And if Godwin comes back, they may even say, Godwin, you're going to play on the outside because Igbuka is just going to dice up the defense in the slot. So, yeah, quite a bit of a hot take saying he's going to finish top 20 and outproduce Evans and Godwin whenever Godwin gets back. But I love Egbuka this year. I think he's a very polished receiver. I liked him in college. I think he's going to be absolutely incredible. And, Baker's throwing him the ball. He doesn't have Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson throwing him the ball, and he's in New York. He doesn't have Justin Fields throwing him the ball with the Jets. Like, he's got a
Yep.
good quarterback. So, yeah, I'm climbing very, very quickly on Egbuka, and I hope I can get him in every league.
Yeah, no, I think I like the take first of all, and I feel like rookie wide receivers, um, there's been a trend where they've just been so successful fantasy wise in their rookie year, and that's sort of become the expectation. But there's always these few guys that kind of slide under the radar, and Egbuka kind of seems to be one of those guys right now where he's still very much a value. People like aren't so sure about the Chris Godwin situation, but like you said, I agree that I think it's going to be a season long thing where it's just difficult to get him back to who they want him to be. And if uh Egbuka just gets to replace the Chris Godwin role, we've seen how successful that is in fantasy.
Yep.
So that would be great. But yeah, I see it kind of like a similar to a Brian Thomas Jr. situation last year where it's like, oh yeah, that guy was a 16th overall pick and like he's the only receiver there or has a chance to be the number one guy there. Why didn't we draft him earlier? And so it's just
Right.
like that when we saw how that turned out. So I could very much see the situation next year where we're like Egbuka's first 3 round receiver that we're taking. So yeah, I love the take, and I definitely see the path for opportunity very much early on the season rather than just waiting another year and waiting for the breakout then. So it could happen this year. So yeah, I like the take.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to be super exciting. As you said, like some of those rookies, the later round rookies, I've been, banging the hammer for Trey Harris, but they just brought in Keenan Allen, which
Yeah.
gives
Yeah.
us another point of news to talk about. I think Keenan's going to be productive. So
Yeah.
I'm not as big on Trey Harris because I think that takes away the opportunity for him. He's now probably the third guy in that receiving core behind Ladd and Keenan. So, but as you said, there's guys who have the opportunity and they could be the one or two right away. Brian Thomas was the one being drafted as like the receiver 44, and
Yeah.
people wondered why he got the targets. Like I said, target share, target
It
opportunity, targets,
matters.
they really matter. I think just to bring up another name before we get off the show, just to follow up with those rookies who have the potential. Matthew Golden, right? My biggest issue with him was, we don't know what this receiving core is going to look like. Kind of feels like Watson has been faded out. Dobbs is going to be on the outside. We know that. But it really seems like Golden's the other guy on the outside, and they're going to be playing in two receiver sets. I think Jaden Reed, from what I've heard in camp and everything, is really going to be kind of like that 60% snap share kind of guy as he has been, and he's going to play the slot when they run the three wide
He's,
receiver sets.
he's already injured too.
Yeah, he's banged up right now. So, yeah, I feel like Golden for me is one of those where it's like the opportunity, the target share it could be there.
Yep.
And we like the rookies. So, yeah,
Yep.
just another name I wanted to throw out there real quick.
Yeah, no, I'm honestly I'm a Packers fan, but Golden's looked really sharp in camp. And that's a room where it's pretty much open. Like there's no alpha there. We thought Jaden Reed had it last year. LaFleur and him don't really mesh on how they want to use him. I think he's more of like a gadget guy. That's kind of what he's turned into. Still very capable receiver, but they're kind of waiting for an alpha to take over. And I think that's all Matthew Golden's for the takings. Where like a year when we
Yeah.
look back on this, we could be like, whoa, like what did we miss with Matthew Golden? First round receiver,
Yep.
targets were there, speed, breakaway ability. Like what did we miss? So I agree. It's someone that I like don't mind taking late in drafts where people kind of forget about them.
Yeah. Yeah, I just love that you brought up like the late round rookies. If they have the opportunity.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, another name real quick and then we'll end for today. Jaden Higgins. He's the number two behind Nico Collins. And he's going to be playing the outside. It seems like he's playing those two down sets or two wide receiver sets. So another guy as a rookie who could be very productive right out the gate. So yeah, keep your eye on some of those guys. Draft capital doesn't always mean that's the guy. It matters, right? Brian Thomas was a first round pick, but Jaden Higgins, round two, he could still be very productive. So yeah, keep your eye out for guys like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. We'll wrap it there for today. We have, what do we have coming up? We have wide receiver rankings coming out. So we're going to
Yep.
do 24 to 13 and then 12 to 1. We'll do two separate episodes talking through our rankings. We'll make our consensus rankings together. But yeah, those will be coming out soon. But yeah, hot takes. Hope you enjoyed the episode and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace, everyone.